Fanspeak, where the plan runs deep. The team grind hard, don't eat, don't sleep. From best ball dreams to DFS streaks, they help you print money every single week. Fanspeak. No cap, no gimmicks, we breaking limits. NFL bets, yeah, we live this business. Meg and Steve, that OG vision. Draft room killers on a lifelong mission. More stress to the Sunday spread. Fanspeak's that voice that's inside your head. Best ball, DFS, NFL bets. They built it brick by brick, no regrets. Fanspeak. Fanspeak team, printing money since day one. Fanspeak, forever.
Welcome back to another episode of Talking Ball with Steve-O Speak. We're going to try and rip a couple drafts today and also talk about something I mentioned briefly the other day, but third-year receivers. Typically, we think of second-year sophomore receiver breakouts. And last year, we thought that was going to be just allow us to print money because the 2024 rookie class was considered extremely talented. And overall, they produced as a collective whole. I mean, there was, of course, some busts, some misses, some injury situations, but there was just so much promise going into last year. And we saw it with the ADPs. We saw 2 first rounders in, Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. We saw a second rounder in Ladd. We saw an early third rounder in Marvin Harrison Jr. Guys like Worthy and Adunze weren't far behind, and then they were just kept getting more and more. Unfortunately, they all failed us. They really did, between injuries like Neighbors and Ricky Pearsall and even Adunze and Worthy, and unfortunately a lot of injuries, and then just disappointing performances. Nobody really came close to paying off their ADP. McConkey was the best all-round receiver, but he only averaged, less than 10 points per game, which is pretty disappointing. And then, Neighbors had the highest points per game average, but he only played 4 full games, and only one of those was over 10 points. So we'll get into that. We'll go kind of receiver by receiver. And also, I think there's some interesting ones who we don't typically think of from that class who actually showed a little promise last year. Might be some interesting clicks. Let me hit up chat, and then we'll get into that. We got our guy Mike here. He is checking in, making sure he's the first one. Meg saying hi. Good to see you guys, and good to see anyone else. And yeah, we can just get started talking on this topic. And we once again start. I'm going to go in ADP order. My rankings might be different, but I'm going to go in ADP order and just kind of give a brief little thought on each guy. Malik Neighbors. Essentially going around later than he was last year. He was going essentially, like 7-8 last year. Now he's going 16. I think we're actually starting to see him slip a little bit just because he is coming back from a major injury, and early reports are not super positive. A lot can change from now until the season, but that is concerning when the early reports usually get the rosiest reports early, and then later it's like, oh, well, he still might need to miss a little time or this or that. So just something to watch. I am slightly worried about Matt Nagy, but that's the least amount of the reason. The more thing is just him coming back from a significant injury and what that could mean for him, particularly early in the season. He might be a great late season play, but paying a second round price tag for a guy who might not have the strongest advance rate, you're going to have to really make sure your team is strong all around. The next guy we have is Ladd McConkey. While it was a disappointing down year from the year before, a couple things to keep in mind. A lot of his numbers were similar. Targets were roughly the same. Receptions were the big difference, and that did lead to a yards difference, but the touchdowns were the same. Why the 50-point difference? It's, of course, the catches, and that led to the yards. He also had less deep shots. I think that was maybe somewhat a product of Greg Roman and a bit of the emergence of Quentin Johnston. But I think the bigger part of that product was the concerns along the offensive line. Justin Herbert just consistently did not have the time, particularly playing once Joe Alt went down, to get the vertical shots. And I'm bullish with them being healthier and better along the offensive line. Most likely Keenan Allen moves on. I think that, knocked him slightly. I think that limited the ability of McConkey to just be an absolute smash last year. But I think the biggest thing is Mike McDaniel coming in. Mike McDaniel, long history with really getting the most out of his receivers. And I think Lab McConkey will be the featured receiver for the Chargers, even if they do bring back Keenan Allen, or even if they are multiple with QJ and Trey Harris. I think regardless, we are going to see Lad be much closer to his rookie year than last year. Can he improve upon that rookie year? I think that remains the question, and just what his ceiling can be. But there's a lot of upside there. Ideally, he becomes a guy who, instead of just over 100 target mark, he's like 130, 140 target mark. That would be huge for him, huge for his upside. I think that it's possible for Mike McDaniel, but it's far from a guarantee, just given all the ins and outs for the team. Then the next one, according to ADP, is Rome Odunze. This was the tale of two halves. First half of the season, Rome was smashing, ended up with more points than he did his rookie year, despite less targets, less catches, less yards. Why? Because more touchdowns. Unfortunately, the second half of the year just didn't go the same. He got banged up. He missed a couple weeks. Clearly wasn't 100% or himself when he was playing. And so his production just really dried up. First 5-6 weeks, he was like a top 10 receiver, and then it wasn't anything close to that the rest of the way. Where he stands now, I still kind of believe DJ Moore moves on. Let's look at the positives. The Bears offense looks to be one of the premier high upside offenses going forward. Caleb Williams definitely took a step. I think you could take another step. The offensive line should be strong. Is there target competition? Absolutely. Both rookie Luther Burden and Colson Loveland are going to be integral parts of this offense. I think, though, DJ Moore does end up getting traded, both from a salary cap standpoint and just because they have these three targets, including Rome. I kind of see this as Rome has some upside here, because if Moore's traded and Caleb takes another step, let's keep in mind, what Jared Goff was doing with the Lions, a guy who repeatedly was 4,400 yards, 30, 35 touchdowns. If Caleb starts doing that, the Rome upside potential here is not Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think it's going to be more of a split situation with their three passing weapons. But I think he could easily be, like right now he's going as wide receiver 28. He can easily be a wide receiver 15 to wide receiver 20. So I think there's some upside potential here. So I definitely want to be higher on Rome, given his current ADP. The next guy, according to ADP, is a guy I love, but the situation to me is too murky for me to invest, and that's Brian Thomas Jr. For me, it's less about the splits with him and Lawrence versus him and Mac Jones. I think that's more noise than anything else. My concern more is there's just a lot of mouths to feed in this offense. Not even counting the running back situation, which will figure itself out whether Etienne's back or not. But you have Bretton Strange at tight end, you have Jacoby Myers, who they traded for and then re-signed. You have Parker Washington, who emerged last year, and then the guy you traded your first round pick this year and a bunch of other picks for to take last year in the first round, Travis Hunter, who was might be the most raw talented receiver on the team. Now, how much he plays receiver is up in the air. So we have a situation where BTJ has the upside to be a number one wide receiver, but it is just such a murky situation. And seeing his touchdowns drop from 10 to 2 is super troubling. He did miss a little time, to keep that in mind, but for being a 6'3" vertical threat and also a guy who can high point the ball, he cannot have 2 touchdowns. Now, I think the upside is high for him, but he is one of the widest ceiling floor situations in this of the guys we're talking about today, and also in this range, which is why I'm kind of lower on him. So I think for me, until we get a little bit more clarity, I'm not a fan at this price tag. It's not that I want 0, but I just worry that we're taking him as the first Jags receiver, and it's quite possible he should be the third Jags receiver, just depending on how we view the situation. I do think he has the best touchdown upside, but for whatever reason, Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers were scoring more touchdowns than him. So he's a guy I'm watching, but concerned about. The next guy is also kind of in a weird situation. I'm a little bit more willing to bet on, and that's Marvin Harrison Jr. One, it's going to be a new offensive staff. Yes, there's Trey McBride there. And yes, Michael Wilson emerged last year, but it's still, you could still have this where McBride is an alpha tight end. Michael Wilson is a very good number 2, and Marvin Harrison could still be a 1. And honestly, even in this price, even if he's a good number 2, he's fine. His numbers were down, but again, he missed time. There were a couple games where he looked like it was going to start to click, but it just couldn't get there. And then, of course, he missed time at a time when the team was throwing 50 times a game. Like, he played his early in the season when they were throwing 25 times a game. So he kind of missed the high volume that really benefited. He played some of those games, but he didn't play all of them. He missed the high volume when Wilson and McBride were putting up some insane games. So I'm willing to take a bet on him in this range, just because he was the highest drafted guy from this receiver class. He had a great college career at Ohio State, which has historically produced some of our best receivers in the league. And of course, his dad is a Hall of Famer. Is he the same receiver as his dad? No, but he's 6'4". He's fast enough. Like, the idea that it's a speed issue, I think is way, way, way overblown. He just needs to be used properly. I actually really like LaFleur going there. One thing we know, granted, LaFleur only has a very small sample size of being a play caller, and he had Garrett Wilson for his rookie year as the only wide receiver of any note in that time. Garrett Wilson had a good rookie year. Garrett Wilson is a different receiver than Marv, but the point being is, historically, whether it's, Mike LaFleur's brother, Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, these coaches know how to get the ball to their receivers. And we see top-end receivers get schemed up better and more targets. And I just think the system could be a better fit. Quarterback is still in question. We don't know who it will be just yet. But at 64, that's roughly 2.5 rounds of discount from where we were taking him a year ago. He was generally going in top 35, somewhere in like the 30-35 range. So I like getting 30 picks of value for a guy who still has the same upside, still has the same, ceiling. And I honestly haven't taken him much yet, but I do think it's at a point where I'm going to start taking him more. Next, we have Ricky Pearsall, slightly discount from kind of where he was going last year. The interesting thing with Pearsall, he missed a lot of time, but his numbers weren't that bad in the games that he played. I want to say, let me just get this right. And he left a couple of these games early. So Ricky Pearsall played 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games of 10 or more points. And for a guy who didn't have a touchdown, that's actually pretty impressive. So let's get him some touchdowns. Let's get him healthy, and his numbers would look a lot better. Like, from a per snap basis, his targets, catches, yards are pretty good. Touchdowns are where we need to work. But, you kind of extrapolate that out over a full season, or you're even close to, like, even 80, 85% of the season, we're talking over 1,000-yard receiver. We're talking, 65, 70 catches, good potential production here. So I think he's going into the season as 49ers number one receiver. They have some money. Even if they bring back Juwan Jennings, I think Pearsall is their true number one. Now, whether they go add somebody, whether they add somebody in the draft, those are possibilities. But it's also a situation Kittle's likely to miss time. So there's just a lot of upside for him, and I'm willing to bet on it. Next guy I'm willing to bet on also is Xavier Worthy, the guy we were taking pick 45 last year. It now is an ADP of 99. Another guy who injuries and lack of touchdowns are the concern. A year after having 9 total touchdowns, he only has 1. Missed a good chunk of time after getting injured on literally the second play of the season. When the Travis Kelce knocked out his shoulder. But I think this is a situation where even if Kelsey's back, I like Worthy definitely at this price and even a little higher. Rashid Rice is kind of a big question mark right now with his potential legal status, but even if he's 100% okay, there's plenty of room in this offense for Xavier Worthy, especially an offense that right now is vacating Juju, Marquise Brown, and Tyquan Thornton. That's a ton of targets that are currently no longer on the team. I think Worthy steps into that. If he, again, staying healthy is going to be key, but that occurs, and we have the makings of, a guy who could easily be drafted more in this 50-60 range if he can be a full-time starter. So that brings us, those are all the guys in the top 100. So here is where we maybe start to get some values. And speaking of second round guys, the next one is actually an undrafted guy or third year guys, and that's Jalen Coker. He's now kind of taken over as the number 2 receiving option for the Panthers. A lot could change this offseason. The Panthers actually have another guy as a third year receiver, Xavier Legette, who I'm out on lower. But Coker, the price is a little rich. I feel like we're getting him at his peak because I just don't know how much volume there is in this Panthers offense. And I do worry if they bring in a really good tight end, there could be less opportunity for a second receiver behind T-Mac. But Coker, I think, is a fair bet in this range. I don't think you're going to get a ton of surplus value, but I think he can pay off that value. Next name on the list is down a little bit, and that's Jalen McMillan. This one's a tough one because from a talent standpoint, I think he's absolutely worthwhile this pick. The problem is they drafted Emeka Mbuka last year. They re-signed Chris Godwin last year, and Mike Evans is a free agent this year, but I think the lean is they re-sign him. If they don't re-sign him, then I think McMillan is a great pick at this price. He missed a lot of time last year with a neck injury, but did come back and earn a few targets in the last couple of weeks of the season. He's in top 3 of their depth chart. He's great, but if Evans comes back, he's the clear number 4. It's tough for a 4th receiver to have any chance of paying off this kind of price tag, especially when the roles are probably much more defined. Like Evans and Mbuka will be the biggest target earners, and then I think Godwin is clearly going to be the 3rd target earner. Like this is not, and we'll get to the team shortly, but not like the Broncos where it's a little bit more of a mix of their 2nd, 3rd, and 4th options. So I do wonder potential trade option. Maybe the Bucs would unload them if they bring back Evans. They could get like a mid-round pick in return for him, like a 4th rounder, maybe. That seems like a stretch, but I wouldn't be totally shocked if that's on the table. Next receiver is one I really do like, and he went from doing nothing as a rookie to having a big second year. 100 targets, 65 catches, 700 yards, 6 touchdowns, kind of emerged as the Broncos number 2. It's more of a fluid situation than being a true dedicated number 2. But I think there's upside here for this offense. This should be a good offense. He does have, some other young upside receivers in Pat Bryant and Marvin Mims mixing in as well. But Franklin emerged above them last year, and he didn't do anything that should keep him from emerging that again this year. Next up is a guy who's already traded teams, and that's Adonai Mitchell. Absolutely didn't work out with the Colts. He is, from a size, speed standpoint, he is everything you want. Just doesn't catch the ball super well. He did have a couple nice games for the Jets late in the year, but there's no Garrett Wilson there. The big thing ends up being who's the Jets quarterback. If it's somebody who we think can do okay, then I think Adonai Mitchell at this price isn't necessarily a terrible option. I worry about the Jets as a whole, so I'm going to be wary. I don't want his price to rise too much, but I think this is a fair price range for Adonai Mitchell. Probably more just a spike week guy than anything spectacular, but worth mentioning and worth taking a few shots on. Next guy is one of the most controversial guys, and that's Keon Coleman. This was the guy everyone thought would have emerged last year. His numbers went, similar targets and touchdowns, but his yards just massively went down. And last year, he should have seen his targets, catches, yards rise. He was a healthy scratch a couple weeks. Brandon Cooks comes in off the street and is out snapping him, out playing him. So a lot of concern here. Brandon Beane did win the battle with Sean McDermott, so maybe he puts his thumb on the scale for Keon Coleman, but Bills are likely to upgrade the position. He's still likely to be on the team, but I'm not going to be heavily invested. If you want to tack him on late in a Josh Allen stack, I think that's fine, but that's about it. Now we get to, I think, some interesting names. And I'll just touch on them quickly, but these guys could emerge to fairly decent roles. And the first one being Ryan Flournoy. Had a great second year. Really stood out a little bit due to CeeDee Lamb being injured. And, that helped in a couple blowout games where he got some more time. But, 40 catches, 475 yards, 4 touchdowns. I think he's clearly going to be the number 3. He outplayed Jalen Tolbert, and Tolbert's a free agent to walk. Turpin is just a gadget guy. So he'll still a little bit, but Flournoy looks like a steal for the Cowboys as a late round pick. So taking him late is to me a fun call. Devon Bailey, another guy who got traded, was with the Broncos as a rookie, actually produced more as a rookie and more than Troy Franklin as a rookie, despite being drafted a couple rounds later. Goes to the Saints, didn't really get in until the end of the year after they trade away Shaheed and let Brandon Cooks walk. But he starts on paper as the number 2 for the Saints. Probably they add somebody and he's more like the number 3. But as a last round click, late round click, I think it's fine taking some shots. So there's a couple other guys who I think are a little bit more interesting. Next one is Malik Washington. Tyreek Hill, I think, is gone. We saw Washington step into a bigger role, gets a little rushing work as well. Never going to be a big touchdown guy, but we could see this 46 catches and 317 yards. Obviously very low ADOT, but we could easily see like 70 catches, kind of like a poor man's Wandale, like Wandale before last year. A ton of targets, ton of catches, yards are low, 3 to 5 touchdowns. Again, late round click, I think there's a little bit of value there. And then, Leggett I mentioned before, I'm just totally out on. There's a theoretical chance he could emerge given a third year in camp, but his numbers went down and the opportunity should have gone up because Coker was injured. They trade away Adam Thielen, and he just could not get it done. The last 2 guys I want to mention is Devontae Walker with the Ravens. We know Hopkins is gone. Tyquan Wallace is gone. Ravens could bring in somebody, but right now it's kind of like Walker and Bateman for a vertical outside receiver. And honestly, both could play, especially if they go to less 2 tight end sets, with their new offense coordinator. So 20th round click, not the worst thing. And the final one would be Luke McCaffrey. Keep in mind, Luke McCaffrey was a 3rd round pick as a rookie. Actually played more in part because he got injured last year, but he emerges as like weird deep threat. Even though he's more of a slot receiver, he was kind of a deep threat for Washington last year. Right now, currently behind Terry McLaurin, it's him and Jalen Lane. They're essentially going back-to-back in drafts. Are they likely to add somebody? Sure. But Luke McCaffrey's inside-outside ability could keep him in the top 3 on the team. And so he's at least worth mentioning as somebody to monitor, not just because of his name. I mean, his dad was an all-pro receiver or Pro Bowl receiver. His brother is an all-pro, like one of the best backs of all time. But he's athletically gifted. He's talented, and he's raw as a receiver. He only had 2 years in college as a receiver because he was recruited as a quarterback. So just something to really keep in mind. He did, I think, emerge. So it's not surprising he hasn't done much yet in the NFL. And he, at the time he got injured, was kind of emerging as like a solid, decent option for the team. So just want to give that quick breakdown. We will now get into some drafts. I'll hit up comments as we enter the draft. And the reason I want to bring it up is, and I'll talk it through, and sorry for rushing, I just do want to get 2 drafts in today and need to kind of be out around 3. So let me count down, then I'll get back into it, the conversation. So I'm going to enter big board in 10 seconds, and in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Enter. We are in. So what I think is we actually have a situation. Yes, everyone kind of failed last year, but they still have these roles. Basically, nobody who we talked about has gotten replaced. In fact, some guys are in better roles than we expected. So we're not in a situation where these guys can't do it. It was more injuries and just bad luck that I feel ruined their ADPs. And I just don't think it worked out for those kind of various reasons. But this year, since all their ADPs are lower, we actually could get some surplus value from a lot of these guys. I mean, if Neighbors does what we expected last year, we're now getting major surplus value. Same with McConkey, same with Dunes, just down the line. So it's something I really want to consider because we know this class was talented. We saw a lot of flashes from the rookie group. And just because they had down second years doesn't mean that they can't, that's their trend. Like, I think there's a lot of upside and talent there. So let me hit up chat. We get Steve McDivitt. Good evening, Steve, still in Europe. Well, I hope you're having a good night in Europe. It's midday here. We got Hartman, GM, Kelly, TGIF, absolutely. 2 Mules saying, hey, brother, let's do a Drafters. Not today. I do want to start doing some Drafters live, but I will definitely be doing some Drafters live soon. The worry about McDaniels is that California cocaine is different from Florida ones. I think that plays a factor, maybe better or worse play calls. Yeah, I'm hopefully not too worried about that. Let's just look at who's in this draft. We got Legion, we got S.3000, King QC, and Chad Al Boogie and Chad Candles in here, and I got the 12th spot. I actually think, I think he got the most out of it. Like, people knock Mike McDaniel. I think he got the most out of the Dolphins every single year. That offense would have been so much worse with an average or below average play caller. Wait, is there a third shout? Have you been hiding your rules and cards? No, definitely not a third shout. We got Al Boogie, GAGA. Hope you're doing well. I'm glad you could join us. Scientist, great Omega Steve. No secret sibs. We got Stephen WC. Good afternoon. Chad Candles in here. Our king, thank you. And glad you joined as well. McCaffrey's a good late click. Yeah. No, I agree. I think they're adding somebody, but I don't think they're adding multiple people. And him, Devontae Walker, Flournoy, even though Flournoy is kind of locked in as that 3, we just know that's a high volume offense. And Malik Washington, some of those like 19th, 20th round guys are kind of interesting. So I want to be clicking them more. My definite favorite at cost is Troy Franklin because he's going 160 some. and could be the fairly easy number 2. Now, granted, this is not to say number 2 the same way T. Higgins is a number 2 or Devontae Adams is a number 2, but fairly easy. Probably, I think he's probably a number 2 in Denver, which is a good offense. It's not like it's a terrible offense. So ADP wise, I'm just going to take the James Cook fall. Who do I pair him with? I will pair him with Genty. Hey, looks like I missed a good show last night. Woke up around midnight. Couldn't believe that is still on. Yeah, we had a fun stream last night. Meg and I did a couple drafts. A lot of chaos. King QC GMGM, my obligatory algorithm chat. Let's draft. Good luck, all. Appreciate King QC. Oh, I get $2 out. My faves. King Henry at 4. Glad I joined. Oh, I missed that. Well, that's an interesting take. I mean, I don't think that will negate the draft as long as he doesn't keep going crazy from there. And it's a red badger, so I can't imagine that's going to be the case. I really wish Peyton would just give us clarity on Franklin versus Mims already. Thought we had it, then the playoffs had flipped. Yeah, I mean, Franklin was a little banged up. And then Mims got hurt in the game. So I don't know what that was all about. I'm willing to take both at cost. And, I've talked about this a little bit. I do wonder if, I know they like Pat Bryant. He also suffered multiple concussions. He might end up being more in the 4th spot. And I do think it's a much more fluid 2, 3, 4. So it's not like there's zero value for whoever ends up in the 4th spot. Like I worry a little bit more about the Jalen McMillan situation. I just kind of lean Franklin. You have the Bo Nix connection going back to college. And, Mims has always flashed for like 2 games, 3 games, just every year we see Mims tantalize us with a couple fun games, and then it just totally goes off the wheels from there. But Franklin, the fact that he was fairly consistent, he had multiple 20-point games, which Lab McConkey didn't have a 20-point game last year. Many of these guys that we talked about only had one 20-point game or none. So I'm willing to bet on Franklin, but yeah, it would be nice if it was clear, though I do think his ADP would then rise probably a considerable amount. So after I make my picks, I'll show the board. Nothing too crazy according to ADP. My rankings, I'm definitely more bullish on Allen and T. Higgins. So those guys get back to me. Kyron Williams. I mean, this kind of the range I'm looking at. I'll probably go from my ranks here. Cook and Genty as my anchors at running back. Could add a third, or could take 2 wide receivers, or Allen in a position guy. Yeah, the Pat Bryant thing makes it a little murky, and I do think that all right, didn't go exactly how I was hoping. Let's go Lad, since I talked up these second-year rookies. I'll do Lad and Adams. I know McMillan's there, but I think these are just far better, in particular passing offenses. So just the upside is considerably higher. I mean, I like McMillan at cost. I want to take it. I believe in him. I believe in his growth. But at the same time, Devontae Adams, we just know can be a top 10 receiver. I think Peyton is convinced that Pat Bryant is Michael Thomas. It's not an MT, but all that matters is Peyton thinks he is. Yeah, that can be concerned. And you hear some weird things where the Broncos might look to add another receiver. I've seen mocks take him. And I'm like, I don't see them adding an early receiver. I really don't. Like Franklin would have like some bad drops. I remember, I think it was the first Raiders game, and it actually turned into an interception. Like Nix hit Franklin in the hands, and it popped up, and Raiders intercepted it. There was another game where something similar happened. So he'd be a little bit more inconsistent, but that's the same with Mims, and honestly, the same with Pat Bryant. Yeah, I would be shocked if they add an early receiver, and definitely don't think they're going to get a big name in free agency or anything like that. So I'm thinking that it's just, Franklin, Bryant, and Mims like mixing it. And I actually think all three, like we saw last year, can have some fantasy impact and are in our 5 best ball plays. Franklin, I think, probably is the most consistent of the three, though. At $1 4 spot goes Lamar next. Yeah, well, I said I was gonna. Yeah, you called that. I mean, really, Bobby's World really loves the Ravens. I mean, Ravens are a good team, but you just paid the highest price. I must really love Neek, because the thing is, like, not guaranteed to get Henry at 21, but you'd fair odds to get Derrick Henry at 21. So it's like to pull him all the way up there. If you're at the turn and you're like, I just love Derrick Henry, I think he's gonna smash this year. Like I was at the turn, I could make the case for pulling up Henry, but 4 just seems so crazy. Just, and then, okay, now it's gotten weird. Tony Pollard, 50. Like, what I don't, like, this is not going to get it thrown out or anything. It's just, what is going on? Okay, this is not a draft. So I will see where I'm at with these 2 picks. Cook, Genty, Ladd, and Adams. According to ADP, Brian Thomas is there. Don't think I'll do it. I just have a tough time. I might close this gap with my next rankings, 84 to 62, essentially, but I don't think I'm going to totally diminish it. I'm going to take Drake May here. Then do I go rookie or Sutton? I think I will go Sutton, just knowing. You know what? I made the case for it, even though my ranks are a little lower. I'll take Marv here. Generally earlier than I'd take Marv, but I think I only have one team with Marv so far, so. Yeah, exactly. Like, yes, you get the unique combo of Henry Nico, because that's hard to get since they generally go back to back. But it's not like you gained value. It's like you got 2 second-round picks and 2 mid-second round. You know what I mean? Like, and at 4, like, it's much more defensible to pull somebody up from the 2-3 turn to the 1-2 turn, just because from an opportunity cost standpoint. But at the 4th spot, we're talking, saying that Henry's going to be, which he could be. He actually could, to be fair, could be RB3. RB3 could be better than every receiver not named Puka. If Puka's 1, that can absolutely occur. But you can just get him, unless this is going to be your only draft, which I assume it's not. It's just a weird take. I mean, JT, McCaffrey, Cook. these guys are great backs. Chase, JSN, ASB, Lamb, I mean, great receivers. Like, it probably isn't going to pay off. And then I think it's just compounding the issue by pulling Flowers up 2 rounds. I mean, Lamar essentially at cost, and Pollard up and Woody Marks up multiple rounds. Like, don't know what's going on. Okay, now I'm starting to get worried that's thrown out, but let's see what this pick does. Okay, I mean, this is just like a Houston Ravens mega stack. He's going to take Stroud way too early. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's like somebody's, somebody preset projections and just overly values those 2 teams. Peyton loves big wide receivers in this class at several. Would not be surprised. I mean, I could see him drafting somebody. I guess I don't see him in the first 3 rounds. I know Franklin was a 4th rounder. But, Mims was a 2nd rounder. Brian was a 3rd rounder. They still have Sutton, who they gave an extension to, has a couple more years. It would just shock me. But weirder things have happened. Let's see what Chad Candles does here. It leaves me on the board. I think I have Parker Washington yet. Not sure I want to take it here. Typically I've taken Diggs with May, so I might not do it this time. Just so not every May team has a Diggs team. So Chad takes Parker Washington. I think I'm going to take Kyle Monangai. And then I'm just going to be overweight on Alec Pierce. Thank you, Stephen. He was owed to me for number 4 of so many friends and family's drafts so far. Yeah, no, I know. Like, I mean, I love drafting, enjoy drafting with people, but yeah, having you and Chad right here before I pick, I'm not gonna guess I get a lot of great value fall to me. So we'll see, but it can be fun to mix up. Let's see what the 4th spot does. Flyfish, weird things have happened. Yeah, like Peyton insisting on making the Luch one. Yeah, let's pray that is done. I mean, I know a lot of that was because Brian was banged up, Franklin was banged up. Let's just pray that is done. We got Jim Waller checking in another draft with that Bobby guy. He took Henry in round 1 in that one also. I mean, Jim, you must be a bigger Ravens fan than you are. So, yeah, he took Stroud. This feel like I don't try and knock, like the the solvers and stuff, but it feels like he's doing, using some sort of thing. And it's just like now taking all Raven, and he's put in his preset projections, and Ravens are like his number 1 team and Texans are his number 2. So it's just keep spitting out, take these guys. And somehow Tony Pollard got in the mix there as well. Worst spot. I'm getting unique. Everyone else, we're this team with Jamar Chase. Yeah, exactly. Steve, let me know who you want. I'll let him go. If Chad takes him, he's a bad person. All right, this is the moment of truth here. Cam Ward. Okay, I mean, Tennessee's the 3rd team in this mix. I'm guessing we'll see DK and Aya Manor, and Yikes. I don't mind the Henry Nico combo, but you can, yeah, that's my point. Like if he did that there, all board, like not all board, like, but that be like, okay, I got a unique way because you're not going to get Henry Nico really. So to do it there, or even like the 11th and 14th spot, something like that, like totally. But to do it at 4 is just such as most people say, it feels like it's like the top 6 picks and then everyone else in the first round, or some were top 5, whatever the case may be. It's just it's a take. Yeah, he's definitely doing Ravens Texans, and it looks like Titans has now entered the mix as well. All right. So sitting at 1,340, we will take Stafford. And I'm going to take my guy, Denzel Boston. So now I really like my receiver room. Running back, double anchor, but I like where Monangai can do, even as like the Dave Montgomery in this backfield, we know that can be a positive role. And then May Stafford feels like a good solid combo. He's drafting an identical squad over here. Wow. Like it feels like this is like a projection based. I'm just going to say, like, people using whatever you want to call it, assistants, bots, whatever. But it feels like he's put his thumb on the scale of like Derrick Henry's going to be RB1. So it's like telling him to draft Henry in the first round, no matter what. And it's like, I can make that case. Like Henry has a chance to be RB1, and definitely could be RB3. The problem is you can get that routinely at any time in the second round. And like we said, if you wanted the combo even of, and you think Nico's going to be our wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, take that combo where I'm at or where Chad's at. You don't need to do it at the 4th spot. Yeah, maybe he's hoping that will be the week 16, week 17 combo and something like that. But problem is, like, Ravens Texans is not one where I'd be like, oh, this is going to be a high scoring game. It's probably going to be a low scoring game. Yeah, that could happen. I mean, 2 years ago, I think they had the same bye week. I believe Lamar and Stroud had the same bye. So it is not always. I mean, he does have a third quarterback now in Cam Ward. And yeah, Mark Andrews, 40 spots ahead of ADP. Calvin Ridley, 40 spots ahead of ADP. I'm kind of speechless. You see, Chad Candle's absolutely taking who I wanted in Emma Johnson. Now we're going to go Shaheed here. And I'm going to take tight end Dalton Kincaid. I take Kincaid first. Here I don't go Shaheed at think there's another running back I want here. I could take a quarterback, be done at quarterback. No, I'll take Shaheed. I'm going to be ahead on Shaheed as well. I think he is going to be one of the true free agent receivers. And there's, even if he ends up back at Seattle, I think this is a fine range for him. It would just nuke, Horton and Cup. Oh, man. Yeah, Henry owns the Texans. That is true. They play week 17. It might be Henry 101. The 876 area code covers Jamaica. He might be enjoying QC, I would just say thanks for being the rake and pray it's not thrown out. Yeah, me too. Fly fish equals a free thinker. I agree. No, I get it. I get it. I think Emma Johnson is a great pick there. I mean, I know you say you're taking Gainwell, but I think the Calvin Ridley going off the board is probably what really threw you. So Dalton Schultz. I mean, I've said all along, Dalton Schultz. I actually think Dalton Schultz should go in this like 140 to 150 range, but you can get him at 180. It's like he only added 3 teams to his projections. Next pick will be electrifying. Electrifying, yes, exactly. Yeah, no, I think. Well, DK will go. Oh no, he took an Iron Manor. I'm surprised DK has the higher ADP, so he might not. He probably will get DK on the way back. Yeah, it's something. There you go. J-Li's built playoff best ball team. You thirsty quarterback drafters. I might have to go with the coveted 5 quarterback build here. Oh, I'll look forward to seeing that, Paul. All right, we will go Hunter Henry. And this is not my favorite range. So do I spoil the fun for the Tennessee drafter? I think I'm going to. There's obviously paths where Pollard is gone and Spears takes on a bigger role, and even not, Dable could utilize him more, especially out of the backfield. He had really nice passing numbers. So as a 4th back, I don't hate it. Rated ADP, I'm a little higher on. Yeah, I mean, so many guys are taking 30, 40 picks ahead of ADP. I still would hope that it wouldn't get thrown out, because it's not like one of those where, we've seen like Meg had a draft. I know she told me where like Aaron Rodgers was taken in the 1st round. It's like, okay, yeah. Or like some other like 18th round guy taken in the 2nd round. Like, and it also is clearly planned. Gunnar Helm, got to do it. Just got to do it. Checkmate number 4. Yeah. I really screwed him up by taking his handcuff. J Live's thoughts on Jane Daniels. I'm like 20 pre-drafts in and realize I have very little. Yeah, I think I only have like 2 right now myself. It's a tougher area just because last year I think you did really kind of have top 4, then Burrow kind of in that in between, and then a gap. And that's why I thought Burrow last year was getting pulled up, because he is closer to the top 4, even though he doesn't have the rushing upside. When he's healthy, Burrow's been top 3 quarterback. This year, you just have a wider, Allen is kind of almost in his own tier. I mean, Lamar is knocking on that door, but Allen's kind of in his own tier. But instead of it just being like 3 other guys with Jane Daniels, you do have Burrow, Caleb, May, and right behind that, Herbert, Dak, Dart, Lawrence. I mean, now Dak's going, near, right around where he went here. I think his ADP is like 84, 85. So I think Jane Daniels, obviously, we saw has the upside, but honestly, so do all these guys. I mean, they're different guys. Like Dak, Herbert can run some, and Lawrence can run some, but they're not going to run the same. Dak will run even less, but he can be he's like the little younger and more consistent version of Stafford. What we saw, who can, a couple years ago, Dak led the league in touchdowns passes. He 100% do that again. So I just don't feel the need to take Daniels as much. And also currently right now, let me make these picks and I'll make my point. I'm so tempted to do DK. I do like DK. I'm going to take Sean Tucker. And it's probably gone. Nope. I'll pull up one more Cooper Jr. I want to get more of him. And, I have Boston, but the rest of my guys are veterans in this draft. So get another rookie. We'll tack on a third tight end. Yeah, I guess I just don't feel the pull. And the other thing with Jaden is last year there were, McLaurin was kind of easily going like 1 round later. So kind of could easily get that stack. And you could still you'd take McLaurin first and get Daniels. So I like it there. But you also had the backstack options of Debo and Ertz. This year, you don't really have that. Maybe those guys emerge later, and that can make me feel a little bit better about Daniels. But right now, like with McLaurin, 100% want more Daniels. But if I take him without McLaurin, I'd like to get maybe a little bit more value to make it make sense, because I don't think there's a stacking option right now. I mean, you can do a 20th round Lane or McCaffrey shot, but that's about it. Yeah, the Rashard Bateman one is tough. Oh boy. I don't want this draft to get it thrown out. Yeah, that is not a good look. Yeah, I'm just kind of speechless. A lot of times when you see this kind of crazy stuff, and I'm not one to be like bad shaming or anything, but usually you don't expect it from a red badge, right? Just because clearly like they play underdog enough to earn a red badge. So yeah, hey, he took somebody not from those 3 teams. Interesting first pick outside of those 3 teams. Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, like I think Devontae Walker is an interesting 20th round click. I think one of those receivers is going to emerge. Bateman has the contract, has more history. So far I've taken more Bateman than Walker. And yeah, I mean, if Bateman can do what he did 2 years ago, he's paying off that 172. It's just, what are we doing? Yeah, there's so much of this draft. It's like, I don't hate any of these players. I mean, Ridley is a little weird, but they're just all, the price is wrong. I will take Brian Robinson. And I do like having a third quarterback, so I'll take Kirk Cousins. Probably starting somewhere, most likely the Vikings. So still, I think I would go with the standard 3-6-7 or 3-6-8-3 build. So looking at one receiver, one tight end. So, Chargers are his fourth team. Well, for most people, Chargers should be your 1 or 2 team. Like, it's a good thing you got the early, Houston and Tennessee talent. We got Off the Shines checking in, like number 22 with 42 watching, 100% free to click the button. Appreciate it, Shine. Hope you're doing well. We are talking a lot about this fourth draft in the 4-hole. And if you're just joining, I will recap it. It is Derrick Henry in the first round at the 4th pick. Nico Collins at 21. Okay, defensible. Zay Flowers, 20 picks too early at 28. Lamar, roughly around cost at 45. Tony Pollard at 52. Woody Marks at 69. Jaden Higgins at 76. CJ Stroud at 93. Cam Ward at 100. Mark Andrews at 117. And Mark Andrews is another one. Easily, when we flip the cards week 17, we could say Andrews is a great value at 117. But you can get him at 147, 157. Calvin Ridley at 124. Dalton Schultz at 141. Alec Iomander at 148. Gunnar Helm at 165. Rashard Bateman at 172. And then Kamani Vidal at 189. Trey Harris at 196. Keaton Mitchell at 213. And Ray Davis, 220. All right. I mean, at least Mitchell and Ray Davis make some sense. Wordsworth, he's not taking like dead guys. I don't think it should be, you should police. Yeah, no, I don't think it should be thrown out because it's like, yes, now we've seen like some 40, 50, 60 pick ADP jumps, but most of those were later. And he's clearly making it make sense. He has a strategy. Exactly. I don't think it should I agree with this, even as crazy as it is. Because it's not like he's trying to screw things up. All right, we'll go Kate Otten at tight end. Then wide receiver, could go Malik Washington. Talked about him earlier. Like Jeremy Bernard. Yeah, I'll do another Malik Washington share. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think it should get thrown out. It's just wild that it's so consistent. It's one thing to take, pull up Stroud because you got Nico and you wanted that stack, but to just keep double, triple, quadruple stacking it is what's so wild. We got Disbanded checking in with the dot. Hope you're doing well, Disbanded. I blame Albuquerque and Jasper for taking DK and Dell. I also took Taj Spears. That could have been on a short list. So, yeah. I did on purpose, too. or hasn't updated his sidekick since playoff format week 10. Yeah, that's what Jim Waller said. He was in another room with him, and same thing occurred. I had one where a guy took almost all Bengals, Browns, Saints. I'll look and see if it's the same guy. It might be. Like, I do wonder if he goes in and just heavily puts his thumb on the scale for a couple teams and says, I want these combos. We got Steve McDavid saying, is there any chance Wentz is a starter next year, Steve? Probably not. I think assuming Rodgers is back, assuming Cousin, we know Cousin's going to get released, but even like some of the other guys, like maybe there's a chance Geno doesn't get released. They could just say we're paying him a lot of money. He could be our veteran backup, help a young quarterback. But I think he's more likely to get released. I think Tua is going to get released. So I think those guys play musical chairs first, and honestly, somebody like Derek Carr, if he is really coming back, as people have said, while technically under contract by the Saints, he probably can easily work his way by giving up the guaranteed money and stuff, work his way out of that contract or have it traded for like a 7th round pick. So I think those guys, as long as those things happen, I think those guys are above Wentz. Because I also feel like Marcus Mariota is probably above Wentz, would just be my guess. So I'm going to say no, but I think he and like a Joe Flacco, those are the guys to be like priority backups. We know they can start. And again, Wentz was better than JJ McCarthy last year. I think that's was pretty clear if you look at it. So, Wentz has been Mahomes' backup before. I could see him going back to the Chiefs. But yeah, I don't really see much of a starting path. And yeah, this is the other thing. Like him pulling up like Stroud and Ward, honestly, like we're seeing that all the time. It's just pulling up those receivers so unnecessarily is what's truly wild about it. Ask me how I know. We'll look at that in a second. I'm looking forward to the combine. I can then draft way too early some running back wide receiver that runs a 4.2940. Yeah, no, that's gonna happen every year, and sometimes those guys are good. I mean, Worthy had a good year for rookie year, but yeah, other guys like the Teutons and some other guys just don't pan out with that. End up with 0 rookies because the 11th spot took them all. Yeah, Chad. He's literally drafting an identical team. That's what I figured. Like he's using whatever thing. Maybe he built it himself or something else. And I think he probably just inputs what couple teams he wants and just pushes everyone else down. Spears says Steve-O's feet to totally snipe me. That's probably what he was saying. Yeah, like could he start some games? Sure. But I think he goes to a team as a backup. And it was my point. Fun draft. Appreciate the stream. Well, thanks for joining, Chad. Appreciate that. It's the same guy. I just DM'd you a screenshot on Twitter. Oh, wow. That is something. Let me see if I can bring this up real quick. I'll go over the drafts super quick, and then I want to get in a second draft. So appreciate this, Cody. I won't change screens, but this guy did a 5.375. Okay, that's a take. I'm going to read this off, guys, by position, not by ADP. As you can imagine, many of these are well ahead of ADP. Joe Burrow, Tyler Shuck, Shador Sanders, Jacoby Brissett, Aaron Rodgers. So 5 quarterbacks, 3 running backs. Chase Brown, his 7th pick. Quinshon Judkins, Devin Neal. So 3 running backs. I think it's going to be tough to advance with that room. Chris Olave, T. Higgins, Jerry Jeudy, Devon Bailey, Isaiah Bond, Yoshivas, and Cedric Tillman. And then 5 tight ends. Harold Fannin, Jawan Johnson, David Njoku, Mike Gesicki, Cade Otton. This is why I would recommend not drafting by ranks, because then you get a 5 quarterback, 5 tight end team. Yeah, that is something. On this guy in all my draft runs. Yeah, let's. I'm going to go over these teams real quick. I talked through my team as we went through. I do appreciate everyone joining. Legion, he went 5-5-3-7-3, so he didn't do 5 tight ends. Kyler Murray, Jacoby Brissett, Shador Sanders, Marcus Mariota, Mac Jones. So, trying to cobble together quarterback room. Honestly, I think you will end up with definitely at least 2 starters, potentially 3, and outside chance 4. Only went with 5 running backs, but started Jacobs, Scatterboot, Judkins, and then tacking on the Allen boys, Katron and Braylon. Puka Nacua, George Pickens, Cortland Sutton, Ricky P, Steph Diggs, Khalil Shakir, Debo. 7 receivers by 122. Yeah, can definitely stop there. And Tucker Craft. Oh, I like that value on Craft. Like the value on Strange. I don't get why Strange has fallen. That's a weird one for me. And then Mason Taylor. So, it's not your favorite build, but I actually think it works. Not sure if Estad's in here, but I will go over the team real quick. 3-5-8-4. Dart, Love, Willis, likely 3 starters right there. Gibbs, Chase Brown, Javonte, so 3 early. Nicholas Singleton, Emmanuel Wilson, who I've routinely talked about as one of my favorite last round or late round clicks. Wait a little bit at receiver, but I think easily caught up here, as we'll see. Olave, Waddle, Mike Evans, Xavier Worthy, Wandale, Matthew Golden, Romeo Dubs, and then taking a shot on Brandon Ayuk, who we did get also value on, which is good because who knows what happens there. And then 4 tight ends went really late with Theo, Ferguson, Jake Hodges, and Stower. So, I think 4 tight ends makes sense for that build. Probably relying a lot on Theo and Ferguson, but Hodges could give you some time. Stower's in the right situation gives you some time. Some usable weeks. So, yeah. King QC, 3-6-8-3, Burrow, Darnold, Penix, Ken Walker, Swift, Ramondre. Love that value on Ramondre. Bayshell Tootin, like that value on Tootin. This is why we talked about this last night on stream with Meg. My rankings, I have Tootin in early 100s because I think that's how he should be viewed. Until Etienne leaves, I have a tough time taking Tootin anywhere near his current ADP. I'm glad to see that's fallen some. Tyron Tracy and Dylan Sampson. So also gained some nice value on those guys. Jamar Chase, Drake London, Terry McLaurin, Juan Jennings, Keishon Boutte, Torrey Horton, Cooper Kupp, so a couple Seattle options there. I actually like taking both of those. Both will probably give you some usable weeks, but likely one emerges as a pretty decent value given their late ADPs. And Jalen Knoll, stealing that other Houston option from the 4-hole. Sam Laporta, AJ Barner, and Mike Gesicki. So stacking it up with Burrow and Darnold as well at the tight end position. Next is Al Boogie, 3-6-8-3. Baker, Young, Tua. Tua is another one that probably helps prevent Wentz from clearly getting a starting job. Hampton, Kyron, Chuba Hubbard, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, White, Rashard White, Isaiah Davis. So, kind of double anchoring it, and then, looking at a couple of these situations like Carolina and Washington, who's potentially the starting back or potentially the number 2 back. We'll just have to see. Amon-Ra, T-Mac, Christian Watson, Brian Thomas, DJ Moore. I kind of presume Moore's getting traded. But at 106, even if he's not, I think that's fine. If he gets traded, that could be some really decent value. Jalen McMillan, of course, he's still DK. And then Darnell Mooney, probably getting cut, but as a last round click, could easily find a solid home. Harold Fannin, likely, and Pat Freiermuth. So solid tight end room there. And then we will look at Chad's team, 3-7-7-3. Josh Allen, Mendoza, Aaron Rodgers. Take Allen early, get Mendoza, and then taking the the Rodgers swing, and you took it early, but I mean, everyone is just. I saw Steelers beat writer Mark Caboli say that he believes it's a 99% chance that Rodgers is back. So, and I don't think he was being that, hyperbolic in that. So, Achane, Travis Etienne, Rico Dowdle, double tapping these rookies here, Jonah Coleman, Emmett Johnson, really strong running back room. Kind of a double anchor, but you could end up with 5 starters if it breaks right, where Dowdle goes somewhere and both rookies hit somewhere, and then even tacked on 2 others. Mike Washington is a last round click, feels nice. Probably a 4th rounder in the actual NFL draft, but we've seen that as a path for some usable backs and good backs in recent years, like Bucky and Scadaboo. Justin Jefferson, Kai Lemon, Jordan Tyson. Definitely no bias there from the Arizona State connection, but no, I'm a big Tyson fan as well. Parker Washington, Pat Bryant, Trey Tucker, and then taking the Keon Coleman shot. It's not fun, but at the same time, you have Josh Allen, the 200th round or 200th pick guy who probably ends up on paper as a number 3 receiver. Kyle Pitts, Kenyon Sadiq, and Michael Mayer. I think Mayer gets traded. I hope he gets traded, in which case you're probably getting some really nice value there. So let's jump into another draft so we can then get on out of here, because I do need to get off by round 3. I'll say someone DM Bobby. I don't know either. We're jumping back in. Yeah, if you want to get this countdown, I hope Bobby's in here. All right. I will count it down. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Enter. And we have basically filled. It started saying, not my favorite squats on the quarterback takes got me tilted, but always fun to draft with you guys. Appreciate that. 5 quarterbacks. Oh my God. Needs more Ravens. Damn. We did not get Bobby in this draft. We did get Al Boogie back in, Legion back in. KY Bengals. Is that anyone in chat? I definitely remember the name. But thank you guys for drafting. And let's see. I've been taking a lot of shots at Ayuk. I really think he goes to the commies and gets paid. My concern is he goes to the commies as a Commanders fan. But I've seen mixed results. Like I saw Ian Hartitz and Hayden Winks were talking about it. They believe Ayuk could get paid, even if it's just like a 1-year deal. Like somebody will pay. I worry. I don't think that's a good process for a team. But yeah, it could happen. I know Jaden's pulling for him and all that. So we'll see. Dude's a talented receiver. It's just, does he want it is the question. So, and yeah, when you got him falling, that, that's when you take him. No chance Kubiak trades a solid tight end. Yeah, it's just, I wonder, I'm at the 4th spot. As much as Derrick Henry intrigues me, I'm going to just go Jamar Chase. Call me a sellout. I just, I know Seattle went to tight end quite a bit, and Saints some. It's just you're wasting the value of the guy. Like you can get a solid second tight end for cheap money, or they could draft somebody in the 4th round and do what they expect Michael Mayer to do. So that's my take on it. Hopefully if he stays, Kubiak can find a way to utilize him more. It just feels like such a waste, is how I see it. And same thing, and I know this is not a popular take, but when I went over the emerging third year receivers, like Jalen McMillan, if Mike Evans is back, I hope the Buccaneers trade him. I know people will say that's crazy because every receiver gets injured. That includes Jalen McMillan. But it's like he's just wasted as your fourth receiver on that team when you have Evans and Buka and Chris Godwin. And by the time, like Evans and Godwin retire, you've already would have had to make the decision to massively pay McMillan. So it would just make sense to recoup some value. No, appreciate that, Chad, and appreciate you for joining. As I'm sure everyone knows, Chad Candles is the morning streamer. If you can't catch the streams in the morning, definitely catch them on repeat. Always good, fun conversation and drafts. Yeah, I mean, he's cheap, but it's like the Raiders have a ton of money. So like, does that massively matter? Like you could pay, they could sign Charlie Kohler for $5 million a year. Yeah, and yes, Mayer's better and cheaper than that, but Charlie Kohler will do 85% of what Michael Mayer is going to do, and then you can trade Mayer for a fourth rounder. My Raiders can't waste any draft picks on tight end. The league even value Mayer anymore. He did, but it's also the Raiders kind of were bad. I wouldn't be surprised if a team would be willing to trade, like a late fourth rounder or at least a fifth for a shot on Michael Mayer, just because we saw when Bowers was out last year, there's upside there. It's just you're not going to see it on the Raiders. I will start wide receiver. I'll take Drake London. Fell a little bit. So, I don't really love him more, closer to the turn, but in the second half of the second round, yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm a sellout. I went Jamar Chase with the 4th overall pick. Yeah, like it just feels like you've surplus at a position that it's not a primary position also. Like if you had extra depth at corner or extra depth at offensive tackle, yeah, you maybe keep it. I like Kyron here. Kyron or Jacobs, I feel relatively the same on. But I'm going to pull up Kyron. Looks like another spicy draft. I like it. JJ gets a quarterback. He goes ahead of CD. I don't know if he'll go ahead of CD. Like, I think Jefferson could get pulled back into the first round. But I think it's more at the, like 10, 11, 12, which that's roughly where CD's going. Most of the time, CD went much higher here. But yeah, no, I mean, when Jefferson gets a quarterback, I think he'll continue to move up. And my guess is he firmly becomes a fixture at 11, 12. All right. Move the board a little bit. Kicks checking in. Love these afternoon drafts. Really makes my afternoon fly at work. Appreciate that, Kicks. Thanks for jumping in and chatting. Yeah, famously, I'm not famous, but I'm much lower in Jeremiah Love, and it's because, Henry, the Legion took him in the first, which is again fine to mix it up, and I think he wanted to prove that he could take the Henry Collins combo at a much more reasonable rate, which he I think successfully accomplished, and also by not pulling up Flowers and everyone else. But it's just you have this opportunity cost of just at the running back, like guys like Henry, guys like Barkley, who goes ahead of him, but is right there. And then, I mean, Jacobs, Walker, Chase Brown, Kyron Williams. I just don't know how many of those guys he outperforms. So we'll take a second Rams piece. That offense, I have no problem investing in one of the best coaches in the league, and just, you know, a tremendous, I mean, league MVP Matt Stafford, and you know, just one of the best skill groups of Puka, Adams, and Kyron. And also, they have 2 first-round picks. I don't think they take a quarterback. You know, people think they take Ty Simpson. I don't see it. I think they invest 2 first-rounders into this team, maybe 1 offense, 1 defense. You know, we just saw one of their offensive linemen retire. I could see them going an offensive lineman with one of those picks. I've seen some people say like wide receiver. I think that's just too much of a luxury. They just don't need that. I know they have money. I know they have picks. I think they add some depth to the receiver, probably more like 2nd, 3rd round. Yeah, I am just going to take DeAndre Swift. Guys ruined the bit by letting Jacobs fall. Yeah, well, and that's just the other part of when you draft that way. And you know, I read the draft that Cody sent, and it's like he clearly had a plan for these 3 teams, but I'm sure other people were taking, you know, shockingly enough, like some of these other guys, and so you can only pull them up so much. So it's left with him like, why? You know, he pulled up, you know, Burrow, Shuck, and Shador Sanders, had them off the board by 127, and still took 2 other quarterbacks. So maybe he hadn't set his limits yet. But just wild. The Kingsbury hire, the Rams are Super Bowl or bust, so I agree, but they might take. Yeah, I mean, if they took like Nussmeier on day 2, not shocking. Or like Cole Payton later in that 4th, 6th round, like developmental quarterback. No, 100% agree with that. I just don't like people saying, oh, it's the perfect Ty Simpson situation. Why? Like, you know, yes, sometimes that works out. Like, you know, Green Bay, you know, traded up for Jordan Love and then had the replacement for Aaron Rodgers. But you also had those Aaron Rodgers years where Aaron Rodgers was playing an MVP, and you could have taken T. Higgins. What would it, you know, could the Packers have won a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers at MVP level, Devontae Adams and T. Higgins? Yeah, maybe. So, you know, I think the Rams go all in, is my take on it. Yeah, wish casting for fantasy. Yeah, I watched the Hayden Eaton Hornets bid, and you know, they talked about Alec Pierce to the Rams could be a crazy thing, and I get it. Like, you had that vertical threat with Puka and Adams in the intermediate. Good luck, Seattle. Good luck any defense trying to cover that. Already, the Rams were the one team that Seattle couldn't handle. We will take Ramondre here. But I don't see it happening. I think they upgrade from 2-2. And you know, I could see them take like a Ted Hurst type guy in the 3rd round. Something like that. That would make a lot of sense. Maybe Chris Brazell in the 2nd round, like a guy who can, you know, we don't need him to be a full-time starter. but I definitely don't see the luxury picks in the first round. So Kyron Swift, Ramondre, Chase, London, Devontae Adams. Fortunately, Burrow does not make it, didn't make it back. I will take a falling Jalen Hurts unstacked. That feels fine. Maybe I get Goddard later. Maybe not. Either way, I'm okay with that. Click. And go back to the board. No, I mean, real life decisions do matter. I just don't know if I think the Rams understand, like, we were so close last year. We have money and picks. Let's find the best way. So I do think they upgrade the receiver room. I think they do add a quarterback. But it's more just in a different sense. I think the offensive line becomes their top priority. And yeah, they probably will have a better third receiver this year than Conta Mumfield and Xavier Smith. But I also think, like, the Rams, as we saw, they are very comfortable being in two tight end sets the majority of the time. And they have two tight ends who make it work. Like, Cole Parkinson can do everything. Ferguson has the athletic ability to stretch the field. So they're going to not prioritize a third receiver as much as a lot of other teams. Great. So coming into the 8th round, 1-3-3. Feel good about my running back room. Yeah, I don't think Xavier Smith has much of a future on the Rams. Tend to agree with that. It's Saber D3T checking in. What's your thoughts on Parker Washington? I think he looked like a superstar at the end of the year. With Payne Myers investing in second overall pick in Hunter, would be worth 7th round ADP. Yeah, my take on it is I feel most confident about Jacoby Myers. One, he's got the longest track record. They just paid him. I think Parker Washington looked nice, but I wish he was going more like 2 rounds later. So, like, here, I think I'm going to take Jacoby Myers. I just feel much more confident in him than Parker Washington. So I believe in the Liam Cohen offense, so I want pieces of all their weapons. And that includes Travis Hunter, though it's just such a weird situation. Hunter truly might be the most talented receiver, but might be 4th in the pecking order. Parker Washington, I feel like, I had the best understanding of what his role is going to be. Like, I don't think he gets squeezed if they really want to use Hunter more. And I don't think he, gets squeezed if Brian Thomas becomes more of a focal point, where I think Parker Washington could get squeezed in both of those cases. That's my concern. But so to answer your question, like, I want some Parker Washington just because he could emerge as their number 1 receiver. Just with like you said, the way he was playing last year. But I don't want to, overly pay that cost. So I'll be underweight on him, and but I want to have some, 4 or 5% of them. NFL GMs are even thirstier than every best ball drafters for quarterbacks. I think Garrett Nussmeier gets pulled up and starts games this year, especially with Trinidad winning his lawsuit. Why no Nusslove? Yeah, so and that's a good point. Like Trinidad, which I kind of wondered would be the case. Yeah, he's going to be eligible to play. He's no longer going to be in the draft process, which is probably a good thing since he didn't, do like a Senior Bowl or anything. And was generally training, but training more for college football than NFL training. So probably a good thing for Trinidad himself. I think Nussmeier is QB3. I just, we see this teams, last year Chuck was the third quarterback taken. And, I think we could see Nussmeier go in a similar range. Now, Shuck went to a situation where he just had to beat out Spencer Rattler with a coach who didn't draft Spencer Rattler. So if Nussmeier goes to that kind of situation, yeah, I could see him starting some games like Dolphins. If they don't get Malik Willis or one of these situation, one of these other guys, and maybe they just bring in Geno Smith or something like that. And it's Nussmeier versus, Geno and what's his name? The Quinn Ewers. Then yeah, maybe he's starting. Same with like the Jets. Like Brady Cook should not have been starting any games last year. He started games. And they bring in a stopgap veteran and Nussmeier in the second round. There's a path. So I've said before, like I don't have any right now, but will I take like 1-2% of Nussmeier in the 20th round? Sure. I actually think he's more likely to start games than Ty Simpson this year. Let me just pull up Emmett Johnson. Actually, no. I'll take Jonah Coleman. I like Emmett Johnson more, but I want a Jonah Coleman share. You know what I mean? Like, so no, I agree with this, and Nussmeier should be starting games ahead of Ty Simpson. He is definitely more NFL ready than Ty Simpson. Not say nothing the fact that his dad's an NFL coach, so that helps your NFL readiness, I think, a little bit as well. Simpson has the higher upside, but I think Nussmeier is, if I'm betting on somebody to start games this year, not name Mendoza as a rookie, Nussmeier is absolutely that guy. The problem with Nussmeier is anyone like Rams, as I mentioned, could be 100% in on Nussmeier in the second round. So I'll take Emmett Johnson. Probably be done at running back now. Feel real good about this unit. Have 2 quarterbacks I like. 4 receivers I feel good about. 4 in the top, 100 plus picks, including 3 very early. So we'll see if I need to go 9 receivers or not. Maybe this ends up being a 4 tight end team, but probably end up with 9. So likely focused on these positions when I come back around. So no, I'm kind of with you, Paul. I'm just not going to make that click a ton pre-draft, because if he goes to the Rams, if he goes to, the Packers in the second round, to be Jordan Love's backup, stuff like just so many cases like that, where teams could value him in just a clear backup role, even though he probably is the second most ready quarterback. And that was the difference last year. Like Shuck, I didn't take any pre-draft, but after the draft, I was like, okay, he got the draft capital. He went to a team where his competition is Spencer Rattler. Sign me up for the chance. And I had like 3-4% of Tyler Shuck. It's not like I, went crazy. Definitely wish I took a little bit more, as it worked out for Sam Sherman. But, I'd like to see a path forward. Hear me out, Carson Beck. A lot of reps, put him in Cleveland. Who starts? While I think this is a bad quarterback class, you do have these guys like Carson Beck, like Drew Aller, like Kate Klubnik, who have, a little something to the game. Most of these guys will end up being nothing, like backups at best. And sometimes, we see Riley Leonard, Will Howard. These were not top tier guys last year. And their teams respectively seem to like them. Like that's why apparently in the building, like they think, let's give Aaron Rodgers another year and then maybe turn over the keys to Will Howard. Do I think that's the greatest strategy in the world? I don't know, but they at least saw and believe enough in him. I think Riley Leonard has beaten out Anthony Richardson, as well. So it some of these guys could. And for Cleveland, yeah, I mean, Beck versus Shador and Dylan Gabriel, not great. It could easily be Beck. But as Cody said, it could just be a fiasco. Buffy guy, Cleveland could be Kirk Cousins' team. Yeah, they can't start Deshaun Watson. Yeah, there's some coach speak or team speak that Watson will have a chance to compete. I'm not buying it. I could see them bringing in a veteran. I don't know about Kirk Cousins specifically, just because I could see Cousins having, more interest in just going to, if Minnesota's open, I think that makes more sense for Cousins. Let's go receiver here. Actually, I'm going to go tight end so I don't feel the need to go. Actually, I'll take that back again. Let me get a Kyler Murray shot. Really like this quarterback room now of Hurts, Stafford, Murray. Even though we don't know where Murray ends up. Now, Cleveland, I think, should bring in some competition. Probably not from the draft. I think it will be a veteran guy. I don't really see Tua there. Just weather doesn't seem to be great fit for Tua. I don't think Joe Flacco is going to make his third round in Cleveland. I could see Geno being an interesting fit there. I could see that making some sense. But and having a chance to start, I don't know. Cleveland, the tough thing with Cleveland, I went over this yesterday, is their cap situation is such a mess. Deshaun Watson is accounted for 84 million of the cap this year. And the only way to lower that is not by cutting him. You'd actually cost more. The only way to lower that is to push money into future years, which is just bad process for a guy who shouldn't be on your team as it is. And they don't have a lot of options to restructure. Like they can slightly restructure Myles Garrett. They can restructure Denzel Ward, save some money, but they don't have many options to restructure, which is not good. Where like a team like the Bills on paper have a worse cap situation to start, but they can easily restructure Josh Allen, save a ton of money that way. There's a few guys they could cut, like Dawson Knox, or almost definitely they're cutting Curtis Samuel. Like Cleveland just doesn't have those options. And of course, the Bills are in a much better position all around. Also, Cleveland's essentially their entire starting line are free agents. So Bills have 2 starters. Yeah, this range is not fun. Yeah, I don't see Kyler going there. I think it would just be too much money for Cleveland. I think Cleveland needs to go the cheap route. Pray he showcases well in the preseason, and you can. Who would trade for him though? I just don't know anyone that desperate to trade for him. Let's take Kelsey here. I probably should go on Andrews, but we'll take Kelsey. Strange Kelsey. If Andrews comes back, I will take him. So I'm going to obviously go 9 receivers in this build at this point. Got my 3 quarterbacks, got my 5 running backs, got the core of my receiver room. But yeah, I don't see anyone trading for Watson. I just can't imagine it. He might. I think you might need to pray for like 8 quarterback injuries for Watson to become like, as we talked about, or like Carson Wentz then is starting somewhere with quarterback injuries. I just don't know if you trade for Sean Watson. So, all right, let's get Troy Franklin in this team. That feels good. I mean, I know that's what Cleveland wants, but I just don't see it. Steve, I'm at my kid's school for his Valentine's Day party. So big question. A new quarterback helps Addison more than Jefferson in ADP value terms, right? Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think it ultimately helps Jefferson the most because it ensures a chance for his ceiling, and that's why you can then take him in the first round again. But in terms of like actual pick jump, yeah, I think it helps Addison. And that's why I'm lower in Addison right now, just because the uncertainty of who the quarterback position is for him is, yeah, I think the number 2 receiver gets squeezed pretty hard when you have a bad quarterback. Like Jefferson still got the targets. They just were really bad targets, particularly the 9 Carson Wentz ones. So, it should definitely help Addison for sure. Not wrong, just laying out the only options. Yeah, I mean that's it. Is Cleveland just needs somebody to get super desperate, and you never know. Weird things have happened, but yeah, they would need like some serious injuries or something. And it's one of those things like, I guess you play him in the preseason. I just don't know if I would trust it. Like Watson's just looked so bad. It's weird. I mean, I know his off the field stuff, but age-wise, I mean, same draft class as Mahomes. So he should still be in the prime of his career. Just he is not. Tight end starts to dry up. I think I can go receiver here, and should go receiver here. I think DK or Mitchell. I definitely favored DK, so I'll go there. I think Cam Ward, new offense, could be fun this year. It just went really poorly last year. So if one of these Rams tight ends get back, I'm assuming one will, I'll add it to the stack. So hopefully they both don't go. Flournoy in the 17th. But I get it. I mean, as I talked about before, he is definitely earned that number 3 role. And especially now with Tolbert gone, that number 3 role could be a 600+ yard type role. So we'll go Colby Parkinson, get a third tight end, kind of a high floor play, I feel like. So solid tight end room overall. So we will just kind of focus on receiver with these last 2 picks, or last 3 picks, I should say. 18th, 19th, 20th. To end up with a 3-5-9-3 is the intent. Al Boogie sitting at a 3-5-7-2. Legion a 2-5-7-2. He did not get, I mean, Legion, when you take Nico, how do you not pull up Stroud, 3 rounds? Actually, that's one of the more defensible things that team did. So he Herbert and Love as his quarterbacks. Strong running back room. Henry, Jacobs, Judkins, and then Dobbins, Gainwell. Just grabbing Tank. He took the falling Surratt. That's a nice pick. For me, I just thought Mims was clearly the better option, but yeah, I'm sorry, not Mims, Franklin, and took DK as a consolation prize on the way back. So I'm obviously much higher in Jeremy Bernard than his ADP. But generally, I just wait to see if I can get him more closer to his ADP. We're just going to be looking at wide receiver here. Don't think I need to double tap Tennessee without having Cam Ward. Would potentially be doing the same thing with Denver. I might have to double tap Tennessee. Do you think there gets to be a bit of a drop off here? I don't mind pulling Cooper Kupp up. I mean, it's essentially his ADP. I might do that, but the fallen Io Manor is interesting enough. Damn it. Okay, Io Manor goes. I would take Kupp. I mean, the way this team's built, 4 receivers in the top 100, then, just then waiting and taking 5 late. Really, I mean, I think there's some upside here. Honestly, I just want, a little upside, but solid floor to fill the flex when need be and cover the bye weeks for my big 4. I take Stroud when you can take the actual week 17 starter. Be interested to see who you add if you talking Davis Mills or are you talking like Nussmeier. Mims is still sitting there. I will take Keenan Allen in this one. He retires is still a strong enough room and deep enough that's fine. If he plays, I mean, he's going to go, depending on the team, at least top 160. And if it's a great fit, could go, kind of where he was going at the end of last year. It's not like he was a bad pick for where we drafted him. Maybe I took another rookie. Tony Williams is an interesting guy. I know some think it's Daniel Jeremiah is in top 50, so they make him a kind of a clear second round pick. I think he's more of a late third, early 4th round type guy. Chris Bell, should return at some point. Probably would have been a first rounder if not for the injury. So, 20th round click, 9 wide receiver build could make some sense. I won't get a ton of him, but if Jeremy Bernard's there, that will be my click. Then I am gonna get out of here. I'll look over the teams real quick and then get on out of here. I appreciate everyone for joining me. Of course, like this episode, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Appreciate everyone for watching, of course, and those who could jump in the drafts. We also have the free Discord. The link is in the description. And of course, our Substack, you can try it 1 week free, but then it's just a one-time payment for a full year. So you get our best ball rankings content, as well as in-season content as well. So we'll see who Al takes. I'm sure Bateman and Malik Washington. I just took Washington last one, so probably not doing that again. But actually, sometimes I don't love what's left for me at wide receiver, but this one I do, especially when it's Jeremy Bernard. I know Cody is high on him as well, so I'm feeling that it's very much a Cody-approved pick. But no, I like him. I think he's a clear second-round pick in the draft. He just seemed very NFL ready. I think there's a lot of teams. One of those guys, similar to Surratt, and honestly, both Indiana guys, they're just well coached, well ready for the NFL. I think offense coordinators, wide receiver coaches are going to love him when he gets to a team. The quarterback could push for this guy to play early, and I think it's a great 20th round option. I feel like BBG taking Najee when I need a running back. I mean, it's coming back from a serious injury, but at least it was early. Hopefully, we'll just have to see where he lands if there's any value there. But at late round Najee, it has paths to the upside. So I'll look over. I went 3-5-9-3. Quarterback, really stacked up Stafford because I have no idea where Kyler's going to be, and Jalen Hurts. Most of the guys go early, so but I like the value there I'm getting and like the way that quarterback room turned out. Kyron, Swift, Ramondre, and then tacking on 2 rookies I like a lot in Coleman and Emmett Johnson. Went early on wide receiver, Chase, London, Adams, and then Jacoby Myers, and then 5 others late. Franklin, DK, Cup, Allen, and Jeremy Bernard. So a little mix of youth and experience there. Strange, Kelsey, and Colby Parkinson. Not the greatest tight end room, but I think very functional. Al Boogie went 3-7-8-2. Lawrence, Darnold, McCarthy, Bucky, Scadaboo. So kind of double anchor. Then these other guys, Monty and Connor, the fallen Charbonnet. I hope he starts falling more here. I can't take him as current ADP, but yeah, I mean, 175, that kind of range, I start to get interested. Ray Davis and then Naj, like you said, as a last round click. And it's kind of what you need with, Sharp, probably not ready to play early. Like if Naj could give you some early games to the point where Charbonnet could maybe come back, then that becomes, interesting. JSN, Justin Jefferson. I mean, what a combo. That is clearly 2 of the most talented receivers in the league. Can we get Jefferson a quarterback? Carnell Tate, Brian Thomas, Jordan Addison, Jalen McMillan, Torrey Horton, and Marvin Mims. So, strong receiver room throughout. You need some things to break your way with Minnesota, with Jacksonville, even Tampa to an extent, but like what's there. And then Kraft, Barner, I think fine stopping at 2 tight ends there, assuming Kraft is fully healthy. Legion started fun, but then he decided that value makes more sense than full Ravens Texans stacks. Herbert, Love, Davis Mills, like you said, he got the Week 17 starting quarterback in his eyes. Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Quinshon Judkins, J.K. Dobbins, Kenneth Gainwell, Tank Bigsby. I think that's ends up being a really strong running back room. Nico, Jameson Williams, Cortland Sutton, QJ, Xavier Worthy. I like that top 5 of receivers. Romeo Dubs, love the price you're getting there. Elijah Surratt, love the price you're getting there. And Noel, second year, 3rd round pick, easily has a path to emerge. I repeatedly say I like him over Tank Dell, particularly at their current costs. Hunter Henry, Isaiah Likely, Gunnar Helm, late tight end, but yeah, very likely 3 starters. All right, we are going to get on out of here. Yeah, running back room. Well, I mean, I think it's fine. You need your top guys to carry the workload. I think it's fine. We're going to get out of here, but appreciate everyone for joining me. Hope everyone has a great day and a great weekend. Probably not doing any live streams next 2 days. I should have a tape stream out tomorrow probably, and then be back sometime on Monday, probably in the lunch hour range. So thanks again for everyone for joining. Hope you guys have a great day, and I will catch you next time. Peace.